Welcome. Actually, you've seen the printf function in the previous lectures, but I didn't talk about it yet. In this lecture, I'm gonna do that. Although there are some differences, if you know C and you know how to use printf, you may skip these lectures entirely. I'll be using printf and its friends extensively in this course, so it's your call. Okay then, let's get started. Let me summarize what you're gonna learn. In the first step, you're gonna learn how printf works. In the second step, you're gonna learn about the escape sequences. What are they and how they work? In the third step, you're gonna learn how to print the type of any value using printf. And in the last step, I'm gonna show you a few examples using printf. If you're ready, let's start with the first step. Alright, let's take a look at this code. Here is a string variable. And here is how I can print it using printf. Here I've used %q as a formatter. I'll talk about what that means in a few minutes. Just keep that in mind for now. When you execute this, it will print this. It prints two double quotes, right? It's because brand is empty now. Let's assign a value to brand to see what it prints instead of this empty string, okay? Now I have assigned Google to the brand variable. Let's see what it prints now. Prints Google inside double quotes again. Now let's see what happens when I use something else instead of %q. Here, this time, as a formatter, I've used %s instead of %q. Okay, now let's see what it prints. As you can see, instead of printing Google like this, it has printed only Google without double quotes, right? The old code was looking like this. Now let's take a look at the parts of printf in detail. Here I've zoomed in the printf func. Its first argument is the formatting specifier, but I'm gonna call it the formatting text or the formatter text or just the formatter, okay? It just determines what to print and how to print. And its second argument is a value that will replace the verbs inside its formatting text. There can be 0 or more verbs or values. This %q here is a verb. As you can see, a verb starts with a %sign. And after that, there is a letter. For example, q. Q here means quoted string. There are a lot of verbs that you can use with printf. Q is only one of them. And throughout the course, I'll introduce more verbs. By the way, you can use as many verbs as you want. Here I'm using only one verb. That's why I'm passing only the brand variable to printf. That is because printf replaces the verbs with the past values. So here printf replaces the %q verb with the value of the brand variable. If there were more verbs, then I will need to pass more values. Okay, /n here is an escape sequence. This /n allows you to print a new line. Println prints a new line automatically. However, printf doesn't do that, so that's why you need to add a new line yourself. In the next lecture, I'm going to show you escape sequences in detail. Okay, let me show you the differences between println and printf. Let's say that I want to display a message like this. Imagine that there is a program which processes a lot of files. Here it prints the number of total operations and the number of successful and failed operations. So how can I do that using println and printf? Let's start with the println first. So inside the println, ops, ok, and fail variables print the number of operations. Ops prints the number of total operations, and ok and fail print the number of successful and failed operations. Assume that these variables have already been declared somewhere. So this is how we can print the below message using println, right? Okay, now I'm gonna print the same message using printf this time. I'm gonna type it step by step so you can see how it works. First of all, let's type its formatting text. Remember, you always have to type its formatter text first. It's not like println. Then I need to type the new line escape sequence, /n. Remember, println prints the new line automatically, but printf does not. So I need to type it to print a new line. By the way, this is not a requirement. If you don't want, you don't have to print a new line. Okay, let's print the total number of operations now. First, I need to type what I want to print inside the formatter text like this. When I run it like this, it prints this message. As you can see, I didn't pass any values because I didn't need to. There are no verbs inside the formatter text, right? So I don't need to pass any value. You only need to pass values when there are verbs inside its formatting text. Now I'm going to type the first verb. %d verb here means integer value, so it expects an integer value. Here, I want to print an integer, but printf doesn't know its value yet. This is just a placeholder. To print any useful output, I need to pass it a value. Then printf will gonna replace this verb with the passed value. So now I'm gonna pass it the ops variable as a value like this. Okay, let's run it again. As you can see, printf replaces the %d verb with the ops variable, right? Then it prints 2350. Now I'm gonna type success inside this formatter text. Let's run this again. It prints success. Good. Now let me type another verb here, %d again. So this means that printf will be expecting another integer value. Let's pass the OK variable this time. When I run this, printf replaces the second verb, the green one here, with the OK variable and it prints 543. Cool. Lastly, let me type another verb. Now there are 3 verbs here, right? So I need to pass one more value to printf. Now I'm going to pass the fail variable to it. Okay, let's run it. Now printf replaces the third verb, the red one here, with the fail variable and it prints 433. As you can see, the number of verbs and the number of values are the same. That's how printf can replace the verbs with the values. And remember, its first argument should always be the formatter text. It determines what and how to print the verbs. And the rest of the arguments are just values to be replaced with the verbs. Alright, that's all for this example. I think that printf is easier to read and work with compared to println. That's why I prefer printf most of the time. And this is just the beginning. Well done, now you know the basics of printf. In the next lecture, you're gonna learn about the escape sequences. See you there. Hi, welcome. In this lecture, you're gonna learn about the escape sequences. Let's get started. Escape sequences are not specific only to printf. I'll use println now to show you how they work. Now I'm gonna show you what happens when you don't use an escape sequence first. Let's print a string literal like this. Okay, now let's run it. As you can see, it just prints hi hi. Let's say that I want to print each hi here on a separate line. Now I'm going to add an escape sequence in between these words like this. As you can see, Go prints them on separate lines, right? This is because Go interprets string values and when it sees escape sequences, it prints them differently. Here, when it sees /n, it adds a new line after the first hi. Okay, now let's take a look at the parts of this in detail to understand how it works. Escape sequences carry special meaning as in here. /n here is used for printing a new line. /n here is called an escape sequence. Let's count the characters inside this string literal. There are 6 characters, right? It's because /n escape sequence looks like 2 characters, but actually it is only 1 character. So this string literal's length is actually 5, not 6. Go understands whether this is an escape sequence or not by looking at its first character. When a character starts with a \, character, Go thinks that it might be an escape sequence. For example, if it's a new line escape sequence as in here, then Go will convert /n escape sequence to a new line character. / here is called an escape character. There are other escape sequences as well. For example, you learned that /n produces a new line character. You learned that when Go sees a \, in a string, it thinks that it might be the beginning of an escape sequence, and then it starts interpreting it, right? So what if you want to print a backslash only? Well, you just need to type the backslashes twice. This tells Go that the backslash is not an escape character, just a backslash. So Go will interpret it as a single backslash character instead. Here's another question. What if you want to actually store a double quote character inside a string literal? How can you do that? You know, a string literal is wrapped between double quotes. To do that, you just need to tell Go that what you really want is a double quotes character by typing /double quotes. So when Go sees this, it won't think that you're closing your string literal. It will interpret it as a double quotes character instead. For example, here I've used another backslash just before /n character. So when Go interprets this string, it won't print a new line. Instead, it will print a backslash. There are two double quotes inside this string, right? Here, I want to print the second high in double quotes, so that I've used two more backslashes right before the double quotes here. Okay, let's take a look at how Go interprets this string literal. Let's run it now. As you can see, it just prints /n instead of a new line, and it prints double quotes without backslashes. If I typed the double quotes without using backslashes, Go would be confused and there would be a syntax error. As an exercise, remove the backslashes inside this string literal and see what happens. Congrats! You've learned about escape sequences. See you in the next lecture. Welcome to this coding lecture. In this lecture, I'm going to show you a few examples about printf. Okay, let's get started. Now I'm going to show you how you can print the types of variables using printf. By the way, you're not limited to variables only. Printf can also print the type of any value, whether it's a variable or not. First, let me show you an example here. Then I'm going to open my code editor for further examples. Okay, let's declare a few variables with different types. var speed int, var heat float 64, var off bool, var brand is a string variable. Okay, let's print the type of the speed variable using printf like this. So to print the type of value, I'm using the %t verb here. It means type. Okay, let's run it now. As you can see, it prints int. Take a look at the declaration of the speed variable above. You can see that Go prints its type as int, which is correct, right? Now let's print the type of the heat variable using printf again, like this. Let's see how it prints to the console. It says float 64, that's right. Now let's print the type of the off variable. It prints bool this time. And lastly, let's print the type of the brand variable. Pause the video and think about what it will print. Okay, here is the answer. It prints string as expected. Alright, that's all for this example. Now let's take a look at more examples in the coding editor. Now I'm going to create a few variables using a multiple declaration statement. First, I'm going to declare a new variable named planet with a string value like this. Let's print it using printf. First, I'm going to type planet. As you can see, you can type anything inside the formatting text. Okay, now I'm going to type a new verb that you didn't see before. This v verb is like a Swiss Army knife for printf, by the way. It can print any value. If you need to remember one thing about printf, then this is it. Okay, now I'm going to pass the planet variable to printf. Okay, I'm going to run this program now. As you can see, printf prints the formatter by replacing the v verb with the planet variable. This is what I mean by saying you that the formatter is like a template. Also notice that it didn't print a new line. That's because I didn't tell it to do so. Let me add a new line escape sequence to the formatter text. Okay, I'm just gonna add /n inside here. Alright, let's try it again. Did you notice it? Compare the last line with the previous one. This time, in the last line, it prints a new line, right? Okay. Now let me declare a few more variables. Here is the distance variable. It will store the distance to the planet Venus. On average, Venus is 261 millions of kilometers away from us. So let's initialize it to 261. Now I'm going to declare another variable named orbital, like this. Venus orbits around the Sun about 225 days. Okay, now I'm going to declare the last variable, has life. As far as we know, there is no life on Venus, right? So I will just type false. Okay, now let me print those variables using printf. I'm going to copy this line here 3 times using Command-Shift-D. Now I'm going to change these planet words here by using Command-D again. Alright, now I'm going to type distance here. And I'm going to pass the distance to printf variable here. Let me do the same thing for the orbital variable here. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to use 2 verbs. I'm going to print does Venus have life? False. First I'm going to type does, then I'll put a verb here. So I'm going to pass the planet variable to printf. This was for the first verb. It will be replaced with Venus because the planet variable's value is Venus. And lastly, I'm going to pass the has life variable to printf for the second verb here. This verb will be replaced with false because the has life variable's value is false. As I said previously, you can add as many verbs and values to printf as you want. The rule is that there should be only one formatting text and the number of verbs and the number of values should match. Okay, let me fix this one a little bit. As long as you end it with a comma, you can type it like this. Okay, let's try this now. Planet Venus, distance is 261. Orbital is 224. Alright, everything looks right. Let's get back. As I said, the number of verbs and the number of values should match. Actually, there is an exception to that rule. It's called the argument indexing. By using the argument indexing, you can refer to the past values by their position. Let me show you. Now I'm just gonna type a printf. %v is %v away with a new line character. Okay, now I'm gonna pass 2 variables, planet and distance. Alright, so far so good. This is what you've seen so far. Okay, let's run it. It prints an expected message, of course. Alright. Now, without changing the arguments, I'm gonna change the formatting text like this. This is an argument index. And v here is just a usual v verb, as you know. So it's typed like this. A %sign and an index, then a formatting verb. So 2 here tells printf, get me the second argument. And printf replaces this whole verb with the distance variable. This is because if we exclude the formatting text, the distance here is the second argument to the printf, right? So it will replace this verb with the distance. And similarly, printf will also replace %1v here using the planet variable. This is because the planet variable's index position is 1. It is the first argument to the printf. So in printf, indexes start at 1. Alright, let's run this. As you can see, now the printf prints the values multiple times, even I passed 2 variables. Okay, just bookmark this, then you can return back to it later whenever you want. Okay, I'm gonna finish in here, so I'm gonna continue in the next lecture, okay? See you, bye bye.